Should we cut this part out?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll cut it. It's fine.
It's unprofessional. Uh, and we're known for our professionalism on
We
this
are known
podcast.
for our professionalism. Hi, welcome back to This is a Terrible Place to Live. I'm John Bauer.
And I am this week's celebrity guest, Morgan Freeman. Hello.
Welcome, Morgan Freeman. We're so happy that you can be here. Unfortunately, David isn't here right now. He's going to be really sad that he missed you, but he's out of the room.
I heard he didn't like me much anyway.
Yeah. He's said some pretty terrible things about you in the past. We won't go into detail.
No,
I don't want to get him canceled.
I apologize. That was a weird bit. This week's celebrity guest is actually Ricardo Montalban. We don't mess around with any of those B-list celebrities like Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. B-list celebrity. Noted B-list celebrity Morgan Freeman.
Ricardo Montalban, myself, on the other hand, has been in numerous films. Most notably,
I don't know who that is.
Spy Kids.
Oh, that guy.
And Star Trek. And Fantasy Island, but not the new one.
There's an old one?
The original TV show.
I didn't realize that. There was a TV show. I didn't know that. Okay.
Another notable fact about me is I have a really weird accent, and I'm pretending not to at the moment. I'm just imitating David.
Okay.
This is a desperate ploy to make this episode more entertaining because I have nothing interesting to say.
I mean, it is a little bit ironic to me that we recorded while you were in Ireland through like FaceTime, and it was difficult, and so we were like, oh well, when David gets back we'll start doing it more regularly again, and here we are, one episode without the FaceTime and back on FaceTime because of quarantine.
But I mean, there's nothing else for us to do. We have to stay occupied.
That's true. I mean, yeah, currently I'm still working the same amount of hours I was because I can work from home, but not everyone can, so.
Well, there's nothing for me to do. They don't let you host a restaurant from home. That would be a weird. I don't know how you'd Skype in for that.
They have those waiter robots that have like a tray, and then they drive around like segways with an iPad on top.
Yeah, I would love being one of those. That would be my dream job. I could stay at home binging TV shows like I have been, and then every time someone walks in, I'd be like, hold on. And then I'd pause the scene, and then I'd go take them to their table on my little Segway thing. That'd be excellent, actually. We need to set that up as soon as possible.
There is a restaurant that works that way for people who are severely disabled, and it's in the UK somewhere. I saw it on a Facebook video like last week.
Even so, though, they wouldn't let you have that many people gathering in the restaurant.
No, the restaurant would still be closed. But yeah, no, it's a good idea.
I haven't even gotten like takeout because like I'm staying here, and then my parents are like, but what if the person who's making your food has it?
Yeah.
So I'm being nice. Yeah.
They've said that it's not foodborne, so unless the person is not following like health standards and like coughs directly on your food, you should be fine.
Oh, like those idiots that you see online, that one dude who was like spitting in pasta sauce containers. Did you see that?
No.
And the people licking the subways and all that.
As a person who worked in fast food, it drives me crazy to think that there are people out there that did that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You know, I'm actually pretty happy about all of that going on, just because I know that once we're through this, there will be less stupid people alive. Like we'll have weeded them out. It's really just trial by fire. If you make it through, you have at least some intelligence.
It's just evolution, survival of the fittest.
Exactly. And we're going to see a wonderful example of that. We'll get through and we'll be like, wow, they're less stupid.
Yeah, I don't think that's. We'll get more stupid people later, but
Yeah. We'll have a
unfortunately,
brief respite. Well, respite. I don't know how to say that word because I
I've
hear it both
I've
ways.
never figured it out because everyone says it differently.
I was really hoping you'd tell me.
I say it
Um,
respite, but
and okay, I always see the E at the end, and I'm like, well, yeah, I should probably say I, but I'm not sure.
it's respite.
Well, I'm certain it's not that. We did do something together um, in
Oh
quarantine,
yeah, we did. We
but we were still quarantined.
well, we
Make no
Netflix
mistake, we're
partied.
responsible. What?
We Netflix partied,
We did
which is
because we're
the
high
weirdest
tech young
experience.
people.
That's the weirdest experience I've ever had watching a movie with someone.
It was strange.
It's
Although for a while we just ignored it and didn't talk.
it's a very weird thing to be like, I could make a comment here, but by the time I've written it out and sent it, it'll be so far gone.
Oh yeah, there were a few things where I had to like specify what I was commenting on because
Yeah, he
it was
he
so
he
like
sent me something. We To clarify, we watched the movie Shawshank Redemption because neither of us ashamedly had seen it. Um,
I'm not ashamed. I don't have any shame about that.
I'm a little bit ashamed that it took me that long to get around to it because it's been on my list, my whole life.
I wasn't okay. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, that you sent me something referencing the fact that there's a couple of characters in the prison at the beginning of the movie who are called the Sisters,
Yeah.
and David sent me a reference about James Charles because he calls all his fans sisters, and I didn't get it at all because it he sent it and then it moved past and they didn't call them the sisters after that for like another 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
It was a good joke though, if it had been right in the moment.
it was a really good joke if it had landed at the right time.
Yeah. Um, I guess we should talk about the movie though. I guess. Yeah. I
I don't think there's really much to talk about. It's a classic movie and either you've seen it or you haven't. Like
I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest. Um, just because it seemed like pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot to it.
yeah, yeah. As a movie on its own, it's not anything special. It doesn't really do anything out of the ordinary from the perspective of looking back now. But I can see where lots of other films that I like take aspects of what it did first and then incorporate it into something much more special. So, yeah.
I guess I'll do a quick spoiler heads up, but I found it to be very predictable um, because there's the part at the beginning when he goes up to Morgan Freeman and he's like, "Hey, I need a rock hammer," and then Morgan Freeman gets him the rock hammer, and then nothing happens with it throughout the rest of the movie, and you're like, he has to be escaping using that rock hammer.
Yeah. Yeah, well there's even a conversation about it where he's like, you can't dig through the walls with that thing," and he's like, "Don't want to."
He, well, he says it would take you a long time. I think he says 100 years.
Yeah, he says some absurd number of years. But I mean the dude's there for a life sentence, so
Yeah, he's there 20 years until he gets out. So I was like, that. I saw that coming, and the whole thing with the posters, I'm like, well, where would his tunnel be? It's behind the poster.
I mean, I didn't think that far ahead just because I wasn't trying to like figure out where it was going. But yeah, it was pretty obvious.
I mean, clearly he's going to escape. That's what the movie's about. We
Yeah,
know that.
of course. Yeah, obviously. I mean,
And
I think also
there's a
going
whole
into it knowing that just knowing, because it's a classic, we know that he escapes and like he digs a tunnel. Like that's knowledge
Yeah,
that we have going into it. So I think maybe not knowing that, it would have been more of like an interesting like twist, but like obviously there's no way you don't know that.
yeah. And then he talks about how he's made that fake identity, and you're like, that seems like that'll come
Yeah,
back
yeah,
later.
when he talked about that, it was like, "Oh, you're just going to assume this identity when you get out." Like
Yeah,
obviously. He's a little bit, I don't know if OP's the right word, cuz he's just like a character in a movie, not like a superhero, but like how does a banker just know how to fabricate a social security number and a birth certificate? And how
to
does
be
he do
fair,
it
it was
from
probably
jail?
to be fair, it was probably a lot easier back then. They didn't really explain it,
That's
but he was
true.
like, you can do a lot through mail. And I was like, whoa.
I guess that's like today being like a hacker online and buying information on the on the quote unquote dark web.
Yeah, he was a mail hacker back in the day. He hacked the envelopes. Yeah, he got past their postmen, whatever. That was supposed to be like firewalls, but they have postmen instead.
They've postmen.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
stand in a line
Well, and
in their shorts.
they show that rock hammer get worn down like crazy, and then they're like, and there's like 15 doodads on his windowsill, and you're like, he made 15 things with the rock hammer, and it's completely ruined.
He made the chess set that never came back.
Yeah, I know the chess set. I thought the chess set, and I think I messaged this to you. I thought the chess set was always that was going to be under the rock. I was like, this dude, he's just gonna leave some chess set and be like, "Yo, peace."
I thought, like I said, I thought he was going to leave another harmonica because that never came back either.
Yeah, what was this movie? If it wasn't a classic, I don't think anyone now would be like, "Oh yeah, it's good." Like, there's so
Yeah,
much stuff that never comes back.
it seems like they're layering in like subtext or things that are going to come back later. But then once you think about it, you're like, wait a second. No, they didn't use that at all. That wasn't subtext.
The sister's storyline doesn't come back at all. It has no purpose.
Well, I mean, the only purpose of that entire thing was just like prison's really bad, and you're like, oh, prison is bad.
I mean,
That's
I
the
guess I
only thing really.
it kind of is like the story of why he becomes like an endeared member of the group. But it doesn't
No,
really, because that's him buying them beers on the roof. So there's
exactly.
no point of it other than just to be like, so he's there and it's prison and obligatory prison rape scene.
And then other than that, really the only thing that they have talking about how bad prison is like the institutionalization when the old guy leaves and hangs himself and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's really the only thing that they have to illustrate how bad prison is. They're just like, oh, it ruins your life. But then inside prison doesn't seem that bad. He just hangs out with his friends. He's got his library going.
Well, and the whole point of that like institutionalized thing was he wanted to go back. Like he liked it in prison.
Yeah,
So prison's not so
everyone
bad.
liked it in prison. They seemed fine. They were-
Honestly, what was the character's name?
I only remember Red was Morgan Freeman.
I couldn't even remember that. Was it Andrew?
Yes, it was Andy.
I'm wondering because that's the same name as Shutter Island, which is a film I would consider to be a much better version of this.
Yeah, Shutter Island was definitely a much better version of this. Although that's because it has like an entire another story going on inside of it. But
It's a very different story, but it's like if this story were good.
yeah,
Not
it's
not
like
that
if they
this
made
story
the
is
story a lot more interesting.
not that this story is bad. It's just boring.
Yeah, I'd say like yeah, Shutter Island is a much better movie. I gave this movie like 3.5 stars, and I gave Shutter Island 5. So
Yeah, I don't remember what I gave Shutter Island, but it was very high. I gave this 4.5, but I'm kind of regretting. I think I'm to change it.
um, Let's see what else has been going on. Um,
I mean, we can talk about the kind of weird pop culture boom that's happened during quarantine online.
okay, yeah.
Because there's like I don't know, it's like a weird mix of like everyone talking about the same things.
Yeah, which is going to make our podcast a little bit more boring just because everyone's been hearing about this constantly.
But the thing is, I haven't seen or played any of the things.
Okay.
So like the two that come to mind are Tiger King and Animal Crossing.
Oh, yeah. I've I've thought about watching Tiger King just because everyone else has watched it, so I feel a little bit left out. But also, I just don't care that much.
I had
Um,
a big rant to Andrew about why I think expose docuseries are more harmful than they are good, because in general I don't think that they do anything to promote like correcting the behavior. They just quote unquote bring awareness, and awareness does nothing.
yeah,
It just makes famous people out of horrible people.
yeah. There are some things. This is a little bit of a tangent, but just talking about the idea of
Yeah.
spreading awareness, um, where people will be like, "Oh, I'm spreading awareness for cancer." I'm like, "I know about cancer. What do you? I don't know what you're doing." It's just like volunteering so you feel better about yourself. You're like, "Oh, I've spread awareness now."
Well, I think it's pretty widely known now that the Susan, is it Susan B. Komen? Susan G. Komen?
I don't know who that is.
It's the Pink Breast Cancer Awareness.
Oh, okay.
Is a That foundation takes a lot of money in donations and does not fund any research almost at all.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for spreading awareness.
Yeah, they
I'm now
are.
aware of that.
If you want to fund actual research for breast cancer, finding a cure for breast cancer, do not donate to Susan G. Komen. Susan G. Komen is
A bad
not
lady.
is not a good foundation. Find a better foundation. It's a good cause, but that's not the place.
Um, so yeah, we got a little bit sidetracked, but Tiger King, have you watched it at all?
I
You said
have
you hadn't?
not. I'm refusing.
I'll probably break down once I finish catching up on Community. That's what I've been watching.
I watched the first 2 weeks of working from home, which for me was before the quarantine because I got to start that before before it really spread in the U.S. So that was like 4.5 weeks ago now.
Yeah, I've been
I
inside for like 3.5.
Yeah, I watched all of Counterpart on Amazon.
I haven't even
Counterpart
heard of
season
that.
1. It's a show with J.K. Simmons. It's a sci-fi show. It's very good. It's on Amazon Prime. I liked it a lot. I haven't watched season 2, but since then I have not watched any more TV than usual. I have just been working my regular hours.
I've been watching so much. I've gotten through 3 seasons of Breaking Bad and 3 seasons of Community.
Wow.
Wait, no, I'm on season 4 of Breaking Bad actually.
Okay. Wow.
And I've watched a ton of movies. I watched The Florida Project the other day. It was great. So good.
I thought I was going to watch more movies than I have. I have not gotten around to watching anything really.
I'll say Netflix has stepped up its game during quarantine, and I appreciate it. They've put so many good movies on there recently. There was The Florida Project. They put The Killing of a Sacred Deer on there, which I'm going to watch soon. Um, well, there were a bunch that were already on there. I watched Green Room the other day, which I have mixed feelings about that movie.
That's
Like,
the Nazi punk movie, yeah.
yeah,
That has J.K. Simmons in it too.
No, it doesn't. No, it's Patrick Stewart, the other bald guy.
Oh, the other bald guy. I thought it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I heard a review of it, like an in-depth review, and I thought they said J.K. Simmons, but they probably just messed up.
maybe. Patrick Stewart was really good in it though. He was playing a Nazi, and I was like, "Whoa, Patrick Stewart! I normally like you, but now I hate you because you're a Nazi." Um, it wasn't the type of movie that I typically watch, but I did watch it because it's A24, so I can be convinced to watch most A24 movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and I like the stylized like look of it from what I'd seen, so I was like, "Oh, that looks. I'll watch that." Um, I don't know. I'd say there were some things about it that were like overly simplistic, but it was a cool concept because they illustrated really well how they ended up in that situation where it was this band who wouldn't associate with that particular like subsection of a culture, like
Yeah.
Nazi punks, like the skinheads and all that,
Mm-hmm.
where they're a punk rock band, but that's not the sort of circle that they're involved in.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they end up in this situation that they don't want to be in. They're really uncomfortable, and then it goes bad from there. So I thought the setup of it was really good. Um, and then the tension right at the beginning is really strong, where they're stuck in this room with one of the bad guys, and then all the bad guys are on the other side of the door.
Yeah. They talked about that scene in detail in the review I listened to.
So yeah, the tension there was really good. But then I'd say the ending was a little bit sloppy. But overall, I liked it.
I feel like I've watched something that I was like, oh, I needed to get around to this, but I can't remember.
The Flora Project was definitely the best one that I've seen so far.
Oh, I just finished Legends of Tomorrow season 4, 5, whatever I was on. Not that important.
I feel very pretentious now that I've quit all of the CW shows. I feel like a snob
I quit
where I'm like, oh, I'm too
watching.
good.
I quit watching all of them, and I was like, I'm not getting back into them, but I'm gonna watch Legends, and then
Is that the best one? I never watched any of that.
oh, Legends is absolutely the worst, and that's why I love it.
Okay.
It's like ridiculous. It's campy. It's ridiculous, but it's great. The first season is arguably the most try hard thing you will ever watch, but then after that, it's like they embrace how cheesy the show is.
I think it was a PewDiePie video talking about Supergirl, um, and
Supergirl's
just how bad Supergirl has gotten.
so bad. It was
The
fine.
effects
The
on
first season was fine.
the effects on it are legitimately terrible.
Oh yeah.
I was watching it, I was like, this looks like one of those videos where it's like showing the middle effects before it's done. Like this is how we make it. This is like a step in the middle.
I don't know if you watch any Corridor digital stuff. Their
I've seen
YouTube
like a
channel.
couple of their videos.
I watch a lot of their stuff. I really like them because it, they do a lot of stuff that's either stuff that I do for work in 3D realm of stuff or that I would like to learn to do. So I like
Hmm.
watching their stuff. And they've done like a VFX artists react series, and they reacted to some Supergirl stuff. I commented a couple times and was like, "Please react to Supergirl. It's so bad." Because I watched the first 3 seasons of it, and the first season was fine. It was a fine show. It was like on the same
Yeah.
quality as like first season of Flash, maybe. It just tanked the moment it went on the CW. It's a horrible show.
Oh man. Um, I'd say out of all the CW, the probably the best of it that I've seen would be the first 2 seasons of Arrow, and then after that, like
I
Flash was all right for a little bit, but I
I
stopped.
love season 2 of Arrow.
Yeah, the one with
Absolutely love it.
Deathstroke is great.
Yeah, it's great. Absolutely loved it.
I
I
don't know his
think
name, but the guy who played Deathstroke, he did a great job.
oh, I'm getting the name for the guy who plays him in the DCEU, which doesn't really exist. He's in like 3 scenes. Uh, yeah, I can't remember. Bennett, someone Bennett.
But I thought they set it up really well in that show and everything. Just his
Yeah,
backstory on the island and everything. That was well done.
yeah, they did a really good job with those first 3 seasons of Arrow. The season 3 is where it started to take a turn, and then season 4 was a complete crapshoot.
Yeah, I didn't finish season three. That wasn't because I disliked it or anything. I was just like, I don't know. I forgot about it.
Yeah, I started watching Arrow during season 4, and then I went back and watched the first 3 seasons.
Oh, something that you might find interesting that I noticed when I was in Europe is that in Europe in general, so like UK, Ireland, and Germany, all of their Netflixes
Yeah.
have Titans as a Netflix original.
Yep.
I didn't. It took me by surprise. I was like, wait a second,
No, yeah, I knew that.
why are you here?
Yeah, they released it. It wasn't exactly simultaneously though. The whole season came out 1 week at a time in the US on the DC universe,
Yeah.
and then it came out I think a week at a time on Netflix, but it may have been a binge drop.
Is it on Netflix here?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's on in Canada, but it in the US it is not. I think the US is the only place that DC Universe is the exclusive place to find it.
um, I've been considering getting a VPN just because I've got nothing else to do but watch TV. So then I
I
broaden my options.
I have a VPN. The thing is, and I have used it quite considerably to watch movies that I really wanted to get around to that are on Netflix in other countries. It's inconsistent. So,
Yeah.
whether or not it works really depends on the day and the server. So, you might connect and it'll work, but then disconnect and reconnect and it'll not work anymore.
I downloaded like a really crappy free one to watch Daniel Sloss's X on HBO when I was uh, in Ireland because for some reason there's nowhere to watch his special in Ireland. Like it's on HBO, but it's like, oh, this title is not available in your location,
Weird.
and there's nowhere else to watch it when you're there. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to get a VPN. So then it got like halfway through it, and then it stopped working, and then I had to watch the rest of it the next day. So
That's really weird. Yeah, that seems to happen a lot more with comedy than other things because that happens with Comedy Central, their YouTube channel.
yeah,
Like they've done a lot of collaborations with YouTubers recently, but in Canada, you can't watch any Comedy Central videos on YouTube. It's blocked in Canada.
the entire channel.
Yeah, the entire channel.
That's so weird.
So like you can click on the link and it'll take there and this content is not available in your service area.
I don't know if I talked about that special on the podcast before, but I know. I mean, I've talked about Daniel Sloss just because he's amazing, but that special was one of the best ones I've ever seen. Um, he does this whole like first 40 minutes of the show, which are like normal stand-up stuff. He talks about how he's a godfather and how he gets to be like a terrible version of a dad around his godfather. Around his goddaughter. Like he teaches his goddaughter that middle finger is like I love you. So then when they're at the fair, she's going around all the horses and flipping them off and going I love you horses. uh, so there's all of that, and then the like final 20 minutes of the show he uses to touch on like really serious issues and like the loss of a friend based on his actions and everything. I don't want to spoil it too much because his specials are really good that way, and that he delves into like very personal things for him. It usually at the end of his show, and it's really good to like not expect it coming. Um, so watch all three of his specials; they're great.
Yeah, I need to do that.
I also watched someone that you've recommended to me in the past. I mean, like I've known who he was, but like I just haven't watched any of his specials. But I watched Aziz Ansari's Right Now,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, you mentioned that to me. I don't think it was on the pod, but yeah.
that was a great special. I loved it. Um, I'm not like a super like big Aziz Ansari fan. I liked him in Parks and Rec. He was good. Um,
I
but I mean,
objectively don't like him in Parks and Rec.
why?
I don't like his character. I think it framed him as a comedian in a bad light. I think it's poorly written, and I don't like him on
Well, I
Parks
mean, it
and Rec.
was written for him specifically.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Okay. Well, okay. We don't have to get into that, but he's always just been a comedian that's like I've known of, but like never really like cared enough to watch his stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, you've said you really like Master of None.
yeah. That's when I really got big into him for a little while. Was Master of None, which is a great show.
So yeah, I haven't watched that yet. It's in my list, but so I'd known like the controversy around him and like the scandal and everything that had happened.
I didn't, which is
Oh
weird. I didn't know that was a thing until I was like, when are they making a season 3 of Master of None? And then I looked it up and found it. I was like, oh,
yeah.
well, great.
So um, then I watched the special, and it was amazing. Like he did such a good job of talking about like serious things in a way that it doesn't like slow down the pace of the show at all. Um, and
He does some really good crowd work in that special.
oh, it's so good. Like everyone on the
Fantastic.
front row, he just really incorporates them into the show in a very natural way, where it seems like it was scripted, like it had to be that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to
And
imagine that he did that special several nights in a row and those people weren't there for some of the other ones. You know, it's like
yeah,
that is
because
just
there's
part
so
of the
many great
routine.
punchlines that work so well, base where it's like callbacks even, where like what would he have done if they weren't there? But there was probably really great crowd work that he did in other shows that we never got to see.
Yeah.
Um, which is I think that's a testament to like what a great comedian he is that he can do that so well. Um, because I know I'm terrible at crowd work. When I do like my open mics, I do them so specifically. Like I have like the pacing down exactly the way I want it and everything.
Well, that's just a different style of comedy too. Because like I think another really great comedian that everyone talks about all the time, John Mulaney, he
Yeah.
rarely ever does crowd work. He rarely ever talks directly to the audience. He does on occasion, but not very often. He has a very set delivery.
Um, yeah, there's a wide spectrum. Like, yeah, John Mulaney would be on like probably one end, and then on the other end, there'd be I don't know if you know Mike Falzone. He used to be a
Yeah,
host for SourceFed.
yeah.
Like his stand up is almost exclusively crowd work, and it's really good too. He's very funny.
I've never seen his
Um,
stand up, but I know some of his stuff from SourceFed and I think other YouTube stuff he's done.
yeah. So, oh, and also the special like right now is such a. I can't believe that he got Spike Jones to direct his special, and it was such a. It was so good. Like it was probably the most visually interesting special I've ever seen. And I was like, this is such a great like combination of two things that I love, like filmmaking and stand up, and it makes it like it meshes it perfectly.
Yeah, it's really weird to me that comedy specials are directed. I
Yeah,
That doesn't compute in my brain, but it's super cool.
yeah. Like if you go to Bo Burnham's directing credits, it also has like Chris Rock's tambourine. It's like, oh, I didn't. Cool. Um, but yeah, I was very impressed with this special, and I need to. I guess I'll go back and watch some of his older stuff, but supposedly this one was very different.
Yeah, yeah, I think I watched his previous one. Yeah, it's very different.
I love the bit that he has where he's talking about um, the comparing R. Kelly to Michael Jackson, and he, he was like, "So if it was only like two kids, then it's all right then." And plus his songs are better, so it's okay. He's like making the guy in the front row feel really bad
Yeah.
about
uh, yeah, yeah.
it. Let's see what else.
I'm kind of blanking at the moment. I had a few things that popped up that I was like, oh, well, I'll circle back to that, but I can't remember.
My family is trying to start a garden that's going on in our backyard.
Who is?
Uh, my family, we're
Oh,
there's
your
a
fam. I thought you
garden.
said my friend. I was like, who?
No,
Oh, your family. Yeah.
I don't have friends.
My my backyard is a different person's apartment, so there's no garden there.
Well, so the other day, my mom was like, "So we're starting a garden," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And then she said, "So you and Joseph are going to go into the backyard and just dig up all the grass in this area that we fenced out now." So we were doing that for a few hours, which was terrible. We don't even have a hoe. We just have like those little hand rake things.
Oh
So I was
no.
doing it with one of like the little handheld ones.
Oh no,
Um,
you need a tiller.
yeah, we don't have a tiller or a hoe. I'll be our garden's hoe.
I was about to say those all sound like slurs. I need
Uh,
a tiller and a hoe.
Anything can be a slur if you try hard enough. That's the real message. Um, but no, so then eventually my mom was on the phone with her friend who's better at gardening than she is. So that friend said, oh, by the way, the seeds that we're supposed to plant are 15 years old. They're so old. They were supposed to be planted in 2005. And those are the more recent ones. There were some that were supposed to be planted in 2003. Uh,
I'm sorry. How old were you in 2003?
I was 2 or 3 years old, depending on what time of year.
Yeah. Okay. That's Do seeds go bad? Do they expire?
We don't know. So my mom was like, I don't know if seeds go bad. We'll try. Um, so then she called her friend, and the friend was like, no, here's what you need to do. You need to take these seeds and put them in between wet napkins. And that way they'll sprout
That is what you're
before you
supposed to
put them in
do.
the ground. So then you don't like waste it. So we have on our like um, breakfast area, like table, like six different plates full of seeds and wet napkins now. And they're all labeled. One's like eggplant, watermelon. We've got it all set out there. And then she said, and also don't dig up all the grass with the little hand rakes. What you need to do is take leaf bags and cover them and just leave them there for like 2 weeks so that all the grass dies. Because if you till it up, then there'll still be seeds in the dirt. So
But there's still going to be seeds from dead grass.
I know that. I tried to say that, but no one listens to me around here. So now we've just got a bunch of leaf bags in our backyard, and between like a makeshift fence that we made from plywood and wire, um, that doesn't actually do anything. It was supposed to keep out our dog, but our dog can go through the wires, as we've seen recently. So,
You have a
and
dog?
yeah, her name's Jenny.
I didn't know that.
She stays in the backyard. She's not an inside dog because we're mean. Um, so so there's a weird fence that doesn't do anything. There's a bunch of garbage bags on the ground, and my mom said, "Oh, don't cut them though, because I want to use these bags." So we could cover twice as much ground if we cut the bags, you know,
Yeah.
and we can't puncture them, like nail them down so that they don't move. So then they just keep getting blown. Like we'll put things on top of them, so that they don't blow away. But like the corners will keep popping up, so then the grass isn't even covered. Um, it's a bit
Y-
of a disaster at the moment.
Yeah. Do you have a tarp?
No, why
Oh,
would we have a tarp, John?
I don't know. My family did a lot of camping, so we had a lot of tarps.
Ooh, we could put tents over there because tents always kill the grass once they're there for a little bit. Do
You
you have
have a
tents? I don't know.
I was going to say you have tents, but you don't have a tarp.
I mean, I feel like you'd have tents before you get a tarp. That makes sense to me. That
You
makes
need a
sense to
tarp
me.
if you're gonna stake a tent. Okay, well, anyway.
No, you don't. They're those like cheap like little dome ones that you get from Academy, you know?
Yes, to make a tent not get wet, you put it on a tarp.
No, but the bottoms of those tents are basically the same material as tarps, so you
Yeah, it
don't
would
need to.
work, but like when you go camping in one of those tents, you're still supposed to have a tarp under it
Why?
to keep it from getting wet.
But it's already keeping the bottom of it is the water resistant material anyway.
It's still gonna get wet.
I've slept in those tents and I'm fine.
I don't know. I hate camping, so don't really matter to me.
I don't mind camping. I was in Boy Scouts for a little bit.
We won't
I
talk
didn't like
about
it that much.
we won't talk about my time in Boy Scouts. I hated it so
Oh, you
much.
were in Boy Scouts?
Yes.
What rank did you get to? We got to get competitive about this now.
Scout.
Oh, I got to the one above Tenderfoot, whatever that is.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
My
I think it's
oldest
second class Scout. Maybe I don't know.
yeah, Scout second class probably. Yeah, I my oldest two brothers are Eagle Scouts, and then me and Paul are we didn't get past Scout, so
Well, then Paul did Civil Air Patrol,
yeah, Paul did
so
Civil Air Patrol.
which I did as well. I did both. I double dipped because I quit Boy Scouts and I did Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people I know did that because Boy Scouts sucked.
Oh, it wasn't good at all. No,
No, no, it's awful.
I went to their summer camp once, which they had like all these classes that were supposed to give you merit badges. You'd get one for each class. I only got. I don't think I got a merit badge for a single one of those classes. Like that was the idea of the whole camp. It's like you're gonna leave with a ton of merit badges. I don't got. I didn't get one of them. Oh wait, no, I did. I got the rowboating one, rowing one. Even though I was terrible at rowing, they somehow gave me the merit badge. I shouldn't have gotten it.
I don't think I got a single merit badge in
I
Boy Scouts. They required a lot of like even if you did classes, they required a lot of like home time work where you had to like
yeah.
do a certain amount of time or do like a collection of things. It's like I just whatever.
Well, see, that was the whole idea of the class is that you do it all while you're there. So I was like, oh, that. But anyway, the long story is they. I did the rowing one, and rowing is so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. I was like, they're like, oh, you go backwards in a rowboat, and I'm like, I know that, but why? Because I was like, I can just as easily go forwards, and they're like, no, but you go backwards in a rowboat. So then I get stuck on the side of the river and my rowboat, and I'm like, well, you told me not to go forwards, and I can't see behind me. And they're like, why'd you get stuck? No one else is getting stuck. I'm like, I'm going backwards. I
Yeah,
could go
I
forwards.
don't understand rowboats. I don't know why they exist. I'm
Um,
I'm sure at one point there was a good reason for people to go backwards, but
um, so I can kind of row now, but I'll probably get stuck if there's shores nearby. If I was in the middle of a lake, I'd be fine.
yeah, yeah. No. Hmm.
But also, like, they had like a bunch of prerequisites to get into certain merit badge classes. So then I was only allowed to be in like the crappy ones because I was like a new scout. So then I was in like basket weaving and like orienteering.
There were a bunch of things you had to do before you could do anything fun, which is just how school works. But it was like school I didn't have to do if I didn't want to, and
Yeah.
so I didn't.
Yeah.
It's,
Uh,
I'd like the term extracurricular activity is uh, just school that you don't have to do.
yeah. Well, I feel like for for homeschoolers, the term gets thrown around a lot. It's like, oh, you're gonna go to your extracurriculars, and I'm like, no, this is just something fun I do. This isn't like. I guess it makes sense because the term literally means outside of school. So it's like, okay, sure, everything's extracurricular.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm very glad I'm no longer in school.
Oh, it's been the best.
I'm so glad.
If I was having to homeschool during this quarantine, I'd be miserable. But luckily, I'm just here binging Community and Breaking Bad. I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna watch The Killing of a Sacred Deer tonight.
Oh
It's
yeah,
gonna be
that's on
good.
my list. Is that on Prime on Netflix? Where
It's
is
on
it?
Netflix now.
Oh, okay.
It's the Yorgos, whatever his last name is,
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Yeah, I I'm excited because I like Barry Keoghan. He's a good actor, and he's in it. So,
Cats is rentable now, so I'm probably gonna watch that soon.
ooh, too bad it's not on Netflix. We could do a Netflix party if it was. That would be
Yeah.
fun to comment
I
on,
I
except
could
it would be delayed.
I was considering being like, we should watch it together, and I was like, oh, but I don't know how to do that for a rented film.
Or
So
if we both rented it, we could do a Skype call and just press play at the same time and hope it doesn't lag too much.
yeah, we should try it.
We could figure that out at some point.
Or we can watch it separately and then call and do a special episode of the podcast to discuss it.
That's just to review Cats.
Yeah, just
Oh,
cats.
I was venting to you about this over Messenger, but the new Star Wars movie was so
Oh,
bad.
it's so bad.
I'd heard it was
Oh
bad,
my
but I didn't
gosh.
realize it was this bad. Like something that I was confused by after watching this movie, I'm like, why aren't people more upset about this? And I know people get unreasonably upset about movies,
There
but I
was
was like,
there was
there was so
so
much
much backlash when people got upset about The Last Jedi that I think
exactly.
people were just afraid to voice that they didn't like this movie because they thought they were going to get like run into the ground for being haters. But honestly, this made The Last Jedi look like a masterpiece, even
The
if you
Last Jedi
hated
was
it.
so much better than this movie. In fact, I'd say that The Last Jedi was probably the best of this trilogy. Like,
Yeah, when you look back at the whole trilogy, absolutely.
yeah, I don't know. And like, people were just like, yeah, it was bad, but they never said anything about it. And I was like, oh, it was really bad.
Would I watch it again? No. Would I watch the first one, The Force Awakens, again? No. Would I watch the final installation? Which name? Rise of Skywalker. I couldn't remember for a second there.
It's not a good name.
Again? Absolutely. It's a nightmare and I'd love to see it again.
Also, it doesn't, the name doesn't even make sense. The Rise of Skywalker, she's a Palpatine.
I
What?
I know that it really sucks. At the end, she's like, "I am a Skywalker." It's
Yeah,
so bad.
they should have named it The Rise of Palpatine because Palpatine's back and
It's
she is apparently a Palpatine.
it. Well, that would have given it away, like the first trailer.
It wouldn't have because they're like, oh, Palpatine's back. No, I'm saying it wouldn't have given away that Rey was a Palpatine.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, but that was a theory that came out after Force Awakens,
And oh
and
man,
obviously that wasn't the plan originally. Like, come on now,
I
really?
I watched the Honest trailer for it, and they described J.J. Abrams as the director who never saw a landing he couldn't not stick.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Did you ever see Firefly
Yeah, yeah, I
Serenity?
love Firefly. Yeah, I watched Serenity. Oof, but that's Joss Whedon.
I know, but like That's when I think of that phrase, a landing he couldn't not stick. I think of the scene where Wash lands the craft and they're all like, "Ah, we're there," and then it pans to reveal, that's what
Oh,
I think. That's what that movie
Serenity made me
was.
mad too when I watched that. That was a while ago though. So, but I want to vent more about Star Wars just because I'm mad. Um, because this is the first like Star Wars movie that I've like actively hated. Like the the first like the prequel trilogy, like I know it's bad. I just don't talk about it.
The
Like
the
this one, like I
the
am vehemently upset about. Like
the prequel trilogy is one of those things where it's like it's really bad. It's so bad that it became really fun to watch and laugh at.
yeah, and like there's nostalgia going on for me too since I watched them as a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I get something out of this. But this one, it was so poorly written. Nothing made sense. There was that first scene where after the Millennium Falcon goes to visit like a dude who somehow has information from a spy who you later find out is General Hux. And you're like, why was General Hux talking to that one dude in the weird asteroid
Oh
ice?
yeah, what?
Um, so anyway, which I just realized now. I'm like, wait, why was he talking to that guy? How did that guy have the information?
The first like that scene you're talking about, during that scene, my friend who is the biggest Star Wars fan I know, Jenna, turned to me in the theater because we saw it together, and she was like, "What fandom is this?
Yeah.
What fan? This isn't Star Wars."
And then, okay, so they land the Millennium Falcon at their like weird base place that's basically just Yavin, but like knockoff Yavin. Um,
Okay, every planet in the sequel trilogy is just knock off some other planet.
yeah, they've got Scarif, which is just Tatooine. Uh, so yeah, they go to knockoff Yavin. Well, I mean, the knockoff Dagobah doesn't look anything like Dagobah, so it has that going for it.
That's true.
It looks much better than Dagobah. It's really cool looking. Um, I like that planet, whatever it's called.
Who knows?
Um, but anyway, so they land on knockoff Yavin, and then Poe and Rey and Finn have like this weird scene of banter that is so unnatural. I was watching it and I was like, what is happening? They have no chemistry at all. They're not friends. They
No.
don't even sound like
Well,
people
they
talking.
that's the first
Like,
time they've talked. If I can remember, if I remember correctly, that's the first time they've ever spoken.
yeah, that
Like,
scene.
ugh.
And then BB-8 keeps saying things, and then Poe responds like he said actual lines. And then I'm like, this is completely disrupting the flow of the conversation. And they've done that in other Star Wars movies where like the droids will say stuff and Chewie will say stuff, but you never notice it. And this was the first time that I noticed them doing that. And I was like, this isn't working at all. What did
Yeah,
they get
it
wrong?
was it was very much, well, what it was is when R2D2 talks in like the original trilogy, usually C3PO responds to him as if we just know what he said. And sometimes we don't know what he said at all. We have no idea what he said. And so we
Yeah.
just have to take it from the intonation of his beeps. However, in that conversation with BB-8, instead of just responding to him, Poe re-dialogues what BB-8 said.
Oh,
So he does things like he'll be like, "I know BB-8, we have to do the whatever, but first we have to do this," like it's some computer game kid show mashup.
so there's all of that. That was all just painful to watch. That entire sequence on that planet. And then they're like, oh, we need to go track down Sith Wayfinder, which was really just a holocron. They stole it from Extended Universe, and then they were like, but we're not going to call it that. We're
They
going to call it something
stole
else.
so much from the extended universe that isn't canon anymore and just completely destroyed it. And last podcast we talked about Star Wars briefly,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm just done with Star Wars, and you were like, well, This is why I'm done with Star Wars. I am
I
so
understand
done
it
with
now.
Star Wars.
I mean, I'm gonna watch the other ones. They have that sort of emotional hold on me where I'm forced to. That
Well, like I said, I don't have any emotional connection to Star Wars from
yeah,
like my childhood. I enjoyed Rogue One and I enjoyed Solo, and I'll probably watch those again in 2 years.
yeah,
But that's it. Like if they come out with another Star Wars movie, I'll probably watch it, but I just don't care.
yeah. I feel like the only route that they can do to make Star Wars better at this point is because they're going to be doing like one-off movies now. It's not going to be trilogies.
Yeah, which hopefully
Um,
is better.
yeah, I think that if they get really interesting directors exploring interesting genres within Star Wars, like genres that Star Wars isn't originally, but like say they did like a noir one or like a mystery in that sort of vein, or if they explore new genres, basically.
If
A
they
Star
had
Wars
let
horror movie would be really cool.
if they
That would
had
be
if they had let Ryan Johnson make Ryan Johnson's Star Wars movie,
hmm
I have a feeling it would have been really really fun.
yeah.
But
I
instead what
think
we got was this really poorly pieced together mixture of classic Star Wars JJ and Ryan Johnson. And I think that's why people didn't like it. And it
there
still
was
had
some
like a lot of hit Ryan Johnson, but I think that's why it was boring to me.
all of I won't say all, but most of like the emotional beats throughout the movie are just completely undercut like immediately, which was so weird. It was like, oh, they did something. I'm like, oh, and then they self-sabotaged. Like they killed Chewie, and then in the next scene, it was cut, and they're like, and now we have the Wookiee prisoner. They're like, oh, I wonder who that is. It's Chewbacca. They captured Chewbacca. They have him.
Well, and then they did that thing with Finn where he's like, "Ray, I never got to tell you."
And then he never does
And then he never
throughout the
does.
entire movie.
And then she's like, "What is it you wanted to tell me?" And he's like, nothing. Nothing at all."
And he doesn't ever.
And according
Was
to
that
the
what was that
script,
supposed to be?
all that was he wanted to tell her that he's force sensitive, which is the dumbest thing
And then he's
anyone.
like, I can't say it in front of Poe. I can't let Poe know that I'm forfeit.
Like
Oh
I thought
man.
they were going to be like, "Oh, Finn is in love with her." And he
Which
can't say it in front of Poe because Poe is in love with him. But then instead, Poe has some ex-girlfriend come back. Like,
she was not inconsequential to plot.
what the heck?
Um, and then there was the whole thing with Rose in the last movie. I was like, I thought she died. I was like,
They
and then she's back, but she doesn't do anything throughout this movie, and she's never given more time with Poe. I mean, with Finn.
they
I
did
was like, okay,
they did Kelly Marie Tran so much wrong in both movies.
yeah.
They introduced her poorly in Last Jedi, and they unfairly cut all of her part out in whatever that one's called,
Rise of Skywalker.
Palpatine fucker.
And there was a moment in the movie where Kylo Ren point blank asked Palpatine, "How are you still here? What?" And then he's like, "I've been preserved by unnatural means." And he just completely avoids the question because they're too lazy to write it.
Well, it's written in the novelization, which is stupid that it's not in the movie. But yeah, no, it's written in the novelization that he's a clone.
Uh, and then they've got Snoke in like a weird cloning tank. And you're like, what?
Clone was also the sorry, clone. Clone was also a Snoke. No, Snoke was also a clone.
Which doesn't make any sense because Palpatine's like, the entire time I was Snoke. I was that voice in your head. And he was like, so if Snoke was just a figurehead for Palpatine, why wouldn't Palpatine have just been there? What's the point?
Yeah, I don't understand because I mean, obviously he was drawn to the dark side and like idolized Darth Vader. So why wouldn't he have idolized Palpatine too? Like
Or if Palpatine can make literally anyone, why wouldn't he have just made someone who looks exactly like Darth Vader
Well, but
and
the
just
thing is,
manipulated him that way?
the things I haven't read the novelization, but I was reading about it just today actually about like what's in it, and basically they kind of hint that Snoke is a clone of a Sith Lord from the EU, from the old EU, that people thought just disappeared for thousands of years. And that he created a device that Palpatine's using at the end there to prop him up, that exoskeleton thing he was wearing,
Yeah.
to prolong his life.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I
there's a
don't
lot
care.
of stuff they don't talk about. They really took like the thing about that movie is it touches on the EU stuff that I really like and just completely shits all over it.
um, Back on the note of them undercutting their own emotional beats,
All of them?
they had the thing where C-3PO is like, "I'm gonna give up my memory
Oh
for my
yeah, and then he
friends."
just gets it back like 3 minutes later.
Yeah, they explain why he can't. They're like, "Oh, R2's memory banks are super faulty. That's not gonna work." And then it just does.
And then it
They're
just
like,
works,
"Why
yeah.
did they say that if
Like
he can?"
honestly, that was probably the only like emotional point in the entire movie for like Star Wars fans is when C3PO is like taking one last look at my friends. And then they
Yeah.
undermine that with comedy.
Also, C-3PO was off the entire movie.
Oh,
He
he
had
was
like
terrible.
weird. His comedy was felt so different than anything C-3PO's ever done. I was like, this isn't the same character.
He felt like an idiot, whereas in previous movies he was kind of a clumsy dork.
Yeah. Uh,
I will
anyway,
say I like Babu Frick. Babu Frick was cute,
yeah,
but what was his
that
point?
was a nice like turn where they were like, you thought he was gonna be like, I don't know, more humanoid. He's actually a tiny person, and they just didn't acknowledge it
He's like
because
a
it's
tiny
normal for them.
mole.
Yeah.
This is
Um,
my oldest friend, Babu Frick.
Something that needs to be acknowledged that made no sense is now every single ship in this fleet is a Death Star,
Oh.
which is so ridiculously OP that there are no stakes in Star Wars at all now.
the fact the fact that
It
they won,
doesn't make sense at all.
it doesn't make sense at all because there was force lightning and it
Yeah.
wasn't just like hands lightning, it was like full on sky lightning coming out of the freaking tower.
Uh huh.
Were they on Exegol? Was that where they were?
Yeah, that's what they.
Why were they on Exegol? What was the point of that? Why were they there? Why Exegol? It didn't matter for the entire rest of the movie. Why did the final battle take place?
The,
So they're on his home turf.
yeah.
He's got crazy force lightning, and every battleship they have is a Death Star, and he still lost?
And the Knights of Ren were in this battle.
Oh my
Such a
gosh.
disappointment. I was excited for them
I was
because they
so
had like
excited.
the brief scenes in the other movies, and you're like, oh, they're in this movie. Oh, they're gonna be cool. There's gonna be like a cool fight scene, like the one in the throne room in the last movie, but with the Knights of Ren. That'll be so. I was excited for that scene, but then it was such a disappointment when he finally fights them.
Yeah, so boring. I think I related it in a message with you. It felt like intergalactic Proud Boys.
It was just the dumbest thing. Um,
I thought they were
there
gonna
was
be. I thought they were gonna be more like force using mercenaries, but then they
that would have
ended
been
up.
cool too.
Then they
That
ended
would
up
have been
just
so
being
cool.
like guys. I don't know who they were. What was their deal?
They don't explain it.
They don't
Um,
explain it at all. And I kind of thought that they were dead and that we'd get some sort of backstory as to how they
that would have been better than what happened.
like turned Kylo to the dark side and then like kind of how they died off, but they're still there and they do nothing for 2 movies, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're gonna kill you now, dude, the guy that's our
And
namesake.
they just looked stupid sometimes. Like that scene where they were on
Dumb as fuck.
the other Tatooine planet that they went to in this movie, um, the other desert one, the one that was like, we're diverse, but we've got aliens.
Oh yeah, that was stupid. The one where they sink in the pit. Yeah.
yeah, and then like Finn, I think, walks around like a rock, and then one of them is just standing there, and I was like, oh, that didn't look menacing. It just looked, it looked awkward. Like he was like, oh, like
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes in Rise of Skywalker. Now, I haven't seen it since December. I saw it in theaters and I didn't bother watching it again. But there were a lot of scenes I
I don't
remember
blame you.
being like, it's it feels like it's on a green screen. And movies have gotten really good at being like, it's on a green screen, but you have no idea it's on a green screen.
Yeah,
This movie had a lot of scenes where I'm pretty certain it wasn't on a green screen, and it felt like it was on a green screen.
yeah. Um, oh, something else. They have the thing where they talk about um, where all of a sudden Palpatine's like, they're a dyad in the Force. And you're like, what is a dyad in the Force? Which my first thought was like, oh, well, in the prequel trilogy, they never really explained some midichlorians. Um, but I was like, but based on context clues, you know what midichlorians are. It's like how Force sensitive they are based on their blood and everything.
It got written out though.
A dyad in the Force, we have no idea what that is. He's just like, you're a dyad in the Force. And then he starts sucking their faces off. It was weird.
I think the idea was that the two of them were the balance of the Force. Like she was the light side and he was the dark side, and together they were the Force.
They have that in Clone Wars. That was actually a cool episode where they're the embodiments of the Force in like this weird place where there's the father, the son, and the daughter. And like the father is the balance, and then the son is the dark side and the daughter is the light side.
Basically, they are yin and yang.
Okay.
Because
And because
what
of that, he's able to
I don't
suck off their
understand. I
life
don't
force.
understand why. I don't understand why it was used at all. But I understand what they were going
Yeah.
for. The thing that they were going for was like, she's light side, but she has this unquenchable thirst for the darkness, and she tends to go towards the darkness every time she gets like emotional. And he's
Mhm.
the dark side, but he tends to thirst for the light. Every time he's emotional, he ends up giving into the light side instead of the dark. They are
Yeah.
they are good with a little bit of bad and bad with a little bit of good. They're literally yin and yang.
Yeah. Also, the whole thing where Rey literally dies, and then Kylo Ren brings her back to life with the Force. But he shouldn't have been able to, because as we've seen throughout Star Wars, when people who are Jedi or Force sensitive die, they disappear.
Yeah.
But her body's just waiting there to be resurrected.
Yep.
And then he resurrects her, kisses her, then he disappears. I was like, wait, so no, they still do disappear.
Yep. It doesn't make any sense, and also it's a terrible ending. Like, even if you want them to get together, which I kind of did, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I think that'd be an interesting storyline. It doesn't have any payoff because it happens and then he's dead. And it doesn't feel like he sacrificed himself. It doesn't feel like he's done anything really to redeem himself. It just feels like he was a jerk, he kissed a girl, and he died. It's like, what the fuck?
And also, they have like a brief moment where like they smile at each other. I'm like, they didn't build their chemistry at all. They just have like weird visions of each other where they yell at each other, and then that's it. There's nothing like, there weren't sparks flying between them.
The thing that really bothered me is they play with the Force a lot in
Yeah.
that movie, and it's more than any other movie that I remember having like Force use. They play tug of war on the
They did.
ship until it
They did.
explodes.
he snatched a necklace off her on a different planet.
Which is real weird.
I
They
was like,
just
it seems like if you could reach and grab something on that planet, you could just teleport to that planet.
they're
Why can't
very
you?
they're very fast and loose with the rules around the Force. Like the entire thing feels like the line from Force Awakens where he's like, "That's not how the Force works." It's like, well, apparently it is. Apparently that's exactly how the Force works. And they,
I felt bad for Carrie Fisher being in this movie after her death.
I
I
know,
was like,
no
oh,
control.
poor lady. She didn't realize how bad this was going to be.
And some of her scenes are the worst.
Yeah,
Her acting, there's a reason it wasn't in episode 7 what it was shot
yeah.
for.
Oh man.
Ugh,
Yeah, it
bad.
was just all around bad movie.
Such a bad movie.
I might lower my rating actually. I might give it half a star.
I don't remember if I even gave it stars. I think I gave it 3 because honestly, the thing I keep coming back to with Star Wars is the people who love Star Wars saw it at certain points in their life and like
Yeah.
hold fast to those. So like people who saw the original, Star Wars trilogy in theaters hated the prequels, and people who grew up on the prequels never understood that. And now they're hating the sequels. And the people who grew up on the sequels, like 8-year-olds now, are like, wow, look at that. Like it's still spectacle, which is what Star
Mhm.
Wars has always been. So honestly,
Yeah,
3 stars, an 8-year-old would love this.
yeah. I mean, just because the writing in it is so terrible, but I guess the writing in Star Wars has never been its strong suit.
I hate sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here.
And I don't so much mean the dialogue in this movie. Although the dialogue is bad at points, I mean more just like the plot. The plot of this movie is terrible.
What plot?
Yeah, exactly.
This movie is just an Easter egg hunt.
I
They're like, we got to go here and get the thing. Oh, it's the thing. Now we got to go here and get the thing that'll read the thing. And now that we have the thing that reads the thing, we need the thing that tells us how to read the thing that reads the thing. And now that we have the thing that reads the thing that reads the thing, we need the thing that reads the thing that reads the thing that reads the thing.
yeah. From the beginning of the movie, when they're like, there are none of us left, then I was like, I'm just waiting for the moment of this movie that will be a 100% exactly the same
The come to
as
Jesus moment.
no. The moment that is like from directly from the Battle of Helm's Deep and Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf showed us up with the entire with all of the riders of Aelmere.
Oh, you mean the Avengers Endgame thing? That, yeah.
Well,
I'm
the
just,
most notable
I'm just,
moment for me.
I'm just talking about how many movies it's been in.
Yeah, I was like waiting for that moment, and sure enough, was it Poe shows up with them or Lando, whoever shows up with them?
I don't remember. It's Lando.
Oh,
Yeah, it's Lando.
the moment Lando showed up, I was like, there's gonna be Ewoks in this movie. I knew it because I was like, they've brought back everyone. There's no way they're not bringing back Ewoks, and they did. And like the last
Were there
minute of
Gungans?
the movie. What?
Were there Gungans?
No. There were no Gungans. So is it even a real Star Wars movie?
No.
That's
Nope. Can't stand by it.
that would that would have been the thing to push it over the edge where I'm like, it's so bad it's good.
Jar Jar shows up as an old man.
Oh, if Jar Jar Binks had been in one of those tanks in Palpatine's lair,
Or
like he'd constructed Jar Jar
his
and Jar
silhouette
Jar.
his silhouette is visibly him in the row of Siths in their robes.
Oh. No, if they ex machina the entire prequel trilogy to explain how stupid he was, they were like he was just a clone made by Palpatine. He wasn't even a real Gungan. He'd been on Naboo solely to find the Jedi and infiltrate their friend group so that he could manipulate the galactic politics.
It would have been a 5-star movie right there, hands down. Oh my gosh. I'll be honest. I love Jar Jar Binks as a character.
uh, I'm something something Star Wars related that I am excited for is when I eventually break down and get Disney Plus for a little bit so I can watch the most recent season of the Clone Wars because it looks pretty good.
Have you seen The Mandalorian at all?
I haven't finished it. I'm
I,
like halfway through.
I watched episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and episode 7.
I was watching it on like any legal streaming site, and then it didn't have all the episodes. So
See, the thing is, I went from episode 3 to episode 7, and as far as I can tell, I didn't miss shit.
yeah,
So, but episode 3 was pretty cool, and episode 7 was pretty cool.
was episode three the one where all the Mandalorians go and fight the stormtroopers at the? That was a good
Yep, it's
episode.
a good episode.
Yeah.
Real good episode.
I'm happy about that the show exists because, like, some of my favorite stuff and reading, I've read a bunch of the books, is specifically the series Republic Commandos, where they get a lot into Mandalorian culture and the trainers of the clones who, especially the commandos, who like they give them a real sense of Mandalorian culture and like the language and the traditions and everything. Um, so that's something that I really like about the show. So
Yeah. Huh. I'm actually another Star Wars related thing. I started playing Jedi Fallen Order last
oh,
week.
is it good?
That's pretty good. The storyline so far hasn't progressed very far because I just started. So far it seems interesting. It's not. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's definitely not worse than the movies.
It looked like to me if Force Unleashed was made like nowadays.
Yeah, kinda. It's very much similar to like an Uncharted or like a Lara Croft, Tomb
Oh well, that
Raider.
actually sounds much better than Force
Because
Unleashed. I don't like Force Unleashed at all.
it's got like different. There's like it's not open world, and it's not like entirely like quick time event things.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a mixture of like an action adventure RPG kind of thing.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
I'm happy with most games as long as they have like some sort of like open world feel and like a platformer aspect to it, then
Yes.
I'm pretty satisfied.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
Okay, cool.
Because I tend to only play open world games, and I'm enjoying it so far. So
Okay. I might play it eventually. I think we should probably stop because my laptop's about to die,
okay.
which I'm calling you on. And it's been a long episode, I think.